This is Randolph Macias of the Uncensored Voice. Welcome back to the show, guys. Today I have U.S. Congressional District 20 candidate Kyle Sinclair. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for your time, by the way. I wanted to touch base on, can you give us some of your background for your, what you've been doing, how long you've been in San Antonio, what your occupation is?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, I'll say, one, thank you for having me on. It's always great to share about myself and why I'm running. And then second thing I'll share is I am the Republican nominee. So what that means, I have no primary race, no other Republican in my race. So it is me versus Congressman Castro in the general election. That's my focus. A little about myself. So I've been in San Antonio. Actually, I'll start off even. I'm a native Texan, born and raised in the Houston area. Spent the majority of my life in Houston outside of college, and then I've been in San Antonio since 2009. By background, I have a bachelor's and master's of health administration. I was a medical service corps officer for the Army National Guard as well. And then currently I'm a CEO of a hospital here in San Antonio. So that's by background. Love the community, been involved healthcare wise for many, many years in San Antonio. So.
Well, I wanted to find out something a little bit further. Why are you running at this point in time, in this place?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things I'll say why I'm running. Number one is I have a blended family of 8 kids, right? So, and just my time of service and love for country and God and family, I realized that the America that I grew up in is not the America they're growing up in, and is surely not going to be the America with the way we're heading, the America that they will have or they'll pass on. I'm also one of those people that I can't complain and say, I don't like what's going on and do nothing about it. And that was it. I started getting involved in Congressman Tony Gonzalez's campaign, and then I started getting involved in the Republican Party, and then said, I want to run. And honestly, thought about it, prayed about it. I'm a religious person, and talked to my wife about it, and said, I want to run, and that was it. I put the team together and been very fortunate and blessed too. So that's part of it. I would say the other thing I came to realize very fast, that the way we're heading this country is that we're almost not pro-America with a lot of stuff, and we can get into different policies and stuff that's going on, but I'm very pro-America. I love our country. I served for it. I have friends that have died for it. You see the flag in the background. My brother's passed away. So it's near and dear to my heart. I love our country, and I think this is the greatest country that has ever been created. And so
America comes first as far
Absolutely.
as this U.S. Congressional District, and right now we have a very powerful Democrat that has been there for a long time, but has really accomplished nothing in his entire tenure. Now, we had talked earlier. You had mentioned that he is currently a 5-term congressperson.
Correct. Yeah.
Looking for a 6th.
I believe so. So he's been, he got elected in 2013. I keep joking. There's, the Hill wrote an article about it, and as I'm campaigning across San Antonio, speaking to hundreds and hundreds of people every week, that Congressman Castro and I have one thing in common. That's neither one of us have passed a bill in Congress. And I find some of that joking and funny, but there's some seriousness to that, right? As a U.S. Congressman, your job should be, one, to help better this country, and particularly the constituents of District 20. That's 670,000 lives in San Antonio. That's a lot of people. And so, unfortunately, my opponent is more interested in Washington, D.C. We know he spends a lot of time in L.A. and California. So the reality is that you have a sitting congressman that does not spend a lot of time in this district. He has not passed laws for this district. And honestly, what has he done to help this district? And so that's a huge concern for me as a father, and I live in District 20. He currently is my congressman, and I have that. I have talked to dozens of people and many people that are coming on to support me that say they reached out to him with no response. So that's an issue. That's a big issue.
I had talked to another candidate in a previous interview, because I'm trying to step up on the interviews to make sure that our candidates are well represented, at least to the level that I can to help them. But it seems like some of our Republican counterparts in the county judge race are inaccessible. Joaquin definitely is not able to connect with his constituents.
Yeah.
I've reached out to his office as a constituent, and it's like the typical political response.
Yep.
Oh, what's your concern? How can we help? And then you say it, and then you really don't hear anything back. Or if they do reciprocate, it's maybe in a letterhead or something, as a, of whatever I asked about. But he, I think, at this point in time, thinks that he is omnipotent and probably doesn't need to worry about a re-election because it just keeps on happening over and over, 5 times so far.
Yeah.
How are the planets aligned at this time to where you have actually a shot of getting this U.S. Congressional District?
Yeah, great question. And honestly, I think a lot of ways to answer that, but I think the reality for this campaign, for this time and day right now where we're at, there's a lot of excitement. As I mentioned in the very beginning, I have no Republican primary race, so I am the candidate. Based off of that, I went to D.C. about 3 weeks ago and came back with many endorsements from the national level. And I'll pause there, and I keep saying, when I ran for office, I realized very fast that the right candidate with the right message, with the right backing is how you flip a seat. And the candidate's important. The candidate that, and you can look in my past, whether it's my resume or just who I am as you get to know me, I'm a servant leader. I don't care about titles, position, power. That stuff doesn't bother me. I treat everybody with kindness, with respect. I don't care with whether your economic status or your race. And I love helping people. And that's probably why I'm in healthcare, right? You get to help serve people at their vulnerable point and help them get back to a functioning status of life. But that's a big thing for me. In regards to the race, yeah, there's a lot of attention on it. This race will gain national attention because, as you know, we needed 5 seats in the Republican Party to flip to gain majority. That as of this week, 23 members of the Democratic Party are not rerunning. They're projecting anywhere from 30 to 35 Republicans will gain office in the House in 2022. So a lot of excitement, but I will tell you, nobody saw this race, District 20, in particular against Joaquin Castro. I say it's a Castro regime because that's what they have. But he's never had a formidable opponent that has had the backing, support, and endorsements that I've gotten already. And I think people they want change. And this is time for change. And so, and I will call out Congressman Castro. I will continue to call him out for his social ideologue that he pushes out to the people and the stuff that he promotes and pushes out that I think are against the moral vein of this country and the District 20 and the constituents. So a lot of things with that.
So Congressman Castro, I think at this point thinks he's pretty untouchable, but I didn't do a lot of research on this, but I know because I live here that this has to be one of the most inactive congressional districts probably in the country. I don't think that not one of anybody else has ever not passed a bill in that period of time. That means you're not doing your job at all. You're not following the oath that you took to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And certainly you don't dox your own constituents, because that was a big thing when that happened. And multiple San Antonio businesses were affected. They gave maybe to one person when maybe he thought that they should have donated to him, and he wanted to help his constituency and the businesses in his constituency. Hey, see, they donated to the other guy. They donated to, say, Donald Trump, and they should be ashamed. And you probably wanted them to lose business, but it didn't really affect them. But it did make the news, and it was a huge embarrassment when a sitting congressperson turns on his own constituency.
Yeah, not only that, I've had some of those members already reach out to me, and some of them actually had shots fired at their businesses. So that's an issue. Again, you have a U.S. congressman that is turning on his own constituents. He's doing the same thing again. Many of his constituents do not want open borders or a legal asylum. They don't want the influx of crime that comes with people crossing across the border, but yet he continues to do that. They don't want to defund the police. They want law and order. They want crime down. They want their kids to play safe in the neighborhood. They don't want that, but yet he continues to push that. Right? And so there's a lot of individual policies, there's a lot of individual stances he takes on. But to answer your question, yeah, he has turned on his people, and I think people are sick of it. And there's finally a candidate that is willing to stand up for the rights of this country. There's one that's willing to stand up for the rights of the city of San Antonio and the constituent of District 20. So I'm getting a lot of support and a lot of help.
I would dare to say that Joaquin Castro is probably working at the behest of Nancy Pelosi, because I know that Pelosi has planted candidates in the past in Texas districts.
Yeah.
This happened most notably, and this was well known, with Gina Ortiz-Jones. We knew that she was handpicked by Pelosi to unseat, and she never got the position because people wanted the conservative candidate at that time, I believe, was Will Hurd. And now she is, but she got her reward now. She's Undersecretary of the Air Force now. So it's a politics game.
Absolutely.
When the Democrats pick and choose who they want to control in these districts. And District 20 needs to get out of that as soon as possible. And it looks like you're the one that you're our guy for the Republican side. I mean, do you support an America First policy?
Absolutely. I mean, I am very much pro-America. As I mentioned, I served our country, love our country. I think, there's a lot of national issues, but there's a lot of local issues, but very much pro-America, about jobs, about oil, about energy independence, about crime, about the border, and I can continue going on and on and on, but very much pro-America, less government. I'm for less government. And I'll be the first one to say that. I want less federal government. I think the rights need to be back in the states. And then obviously the individual rights protected under the Constitution. And I think that we go back to some of the founding fathers, the Constitution. We have a party right now that does not support or sustain the Constitution. They're trying to change the way of life that this country is built upon. And we can talk about a lot of that stuff. But you have a poster boy that Congressman Castro is that for the Democratic Party. And that's very unfortunate.
I wanted to ask, of course, this is a partisan race. You're running as a Republican. You're the Republican candidate for U.S. Congressional District 20. What is your message to the Democrat voter?
Yeah, I think honestly, you should have a U.S. congressman that's a interest in all constituents, right? Again, we shared the example of him turning on some of the Republican voters. I think he lost a lot of independents. There were no national polls that the Hispanic are lining more towards a Republican. The independents are lining towards. The people want freedom, right? They want safety. They want the economy being better for them. They don't want to spend $4 on gas. They don't want to spend $3 on milk. They don't want crime up in their cities. They want freedom, and that comes with law and order. That comes with respecting the Constitution. That comes without coddling criminals and releasing them for the smash and grab. That comes with protecting their children's right in schools in regards to critical race theory that is creeping into San Antonio, right? I will be the first to say I do not want to co-parent with the federal government. I don't want to choose and have the government to tell me and mandate me to get a vaccine if I don't want to. Right? That's protected under the Constitution. And those are just several things. I want law and order. I want a border wall. I'm for legal immigration. Absolutely for it. My family ancestry is from Scotland. I came to this country. I am a fifth generation American because of that. And I'm for it. So there's nothing wrong with that. But again, you got to be tough on crime. You got to build your police force. You got to have the community safe. You got to have laws that bring the community together. You got to have an economy that grows. Castro's against oil. Unfortunately, the oil is what we built this country on. I am pro oil and gas, and I will continue to do that. I'm for renewable energy when it's sustainable. Unfortunately, it's not sustainable. We saw that. But in regards to everybody, I think you have somebody that can reach across the aisle. It does not matter your race, your economic status. I don't care about that stuff. It doesn't bother me. And I think that's the benefit of a non-career politician, right? I am a political outsider who wants to make District 20 better and the city of San Antonio better. And that's why a lot of Democrats are coming to my party or my race and supporting with donations and helping get involved in my race.
So it's a big thing with me, and a lot of the questions I ask is identity politics. Just because you're Hispanic, just because you're black, does not automatically mean you are a liberal or you don't do as they say in the Democratic Party to vote for only the Democrat no matter what, blindly. That is irresponsible for a voter to do that. So I'm hoping that our listeners and our viewers will understand if you are a minority race, you are not automatically a Democrat. Do your research and vote who you think will do the job regardless of party, because I think the Democrat Party, well, I know for a fact now, the Democrat Party is not the party of JFK anymore. Yeah. It is, for the people, is now shifting toward the Republican conservative side,
Yeah.
because the left is so far gone that they went off the deep end and might as well call themselves socialists, because that's what I'm seeing with our policies.
Yeah, so there's a couple things I'll share. Number one, I have hired hundreds upon hundreds of Hispanic employees. So I know that voter base, right? Well, let me start off. This race is not about, the congressional race is not about race. That should never be part of politics, ever. And I don't care what race you are. So a little about myself. I've hired hundreds and hundreds of Hispanic employees. I've taken care of thousands of Hispanic patients since I've been in San Antonio. I deal with on a daily basis dozens upon dozens of doctors that are Hispanic. I have half Hispanic stepchildren, right? I am ingrained in this community, and so this is not about race to me. I don't see color. It doesn't bother me. I love the Hispanic culture. I love San Antonio, what it brings. But to your point, yeah, I keep saying, particularly Hispanic, the makeup of our district is 670,000 constituents. 62% of them are Hispanic, but 78% of them speak English as their first language. And I keep saying jokingly that Congressman Castro have two things in common. The second one is that neither one of us speak Spanish. So although he is Castro and uses Castro's name, he doesn't even speak Spanish himself. So that's an ironic thing for me that you use that. So, but the other reality is that that we have to be able to get to the point where we don't create race in this. This is not about race. This is about a candidate that puts America's interests and that family's interests first, right? And I think I do that. I think I do that much better even as a candidate than he does. I'll give you an example about the border. Castro says the border's not closed. He believes what Mayorkas and Biden are saying. I went to the border. I spoke to the DPS. I spoke to Border Patrol. I spoke to local sheriff's office. I spoke to the Border Patrol. Spoke to the healthcare. That border is not closed. It is open. And we shared some of the numbers earlier. So what I did is then brought that back to San Antonio, because if our congressman is going to lie and not share the truth because he's following a party line, we need the truth. And unfortunately, as a candidate, that's what I'm having to do, because we have a congressman who is not and will not do it. So
the border is a very huge source of contention right now in the state of Texas, because we have, I think, about 1,000+ miles of it, more than any other state in the United States. So it affects us directly. And I've been down to the border. I've talked to officials in that area. They don't think it's a problem. Some of the Democrats that I've talked to, county commissioners and such. But it is a real thing. And sex trafficking, I'm very concerned about that. What's your take on that? Have you seen?
Yeah, so I've been to the border. I've talked to, like I said, the local. I'm constantly talking to them, and they actually are Democrat, and then they are not happy with what's going on. They have multiple issues going on. I attended a meeting about 5-6 weeks ago in Kinney County where they came together, and they don't have body bags because there's the amount of deaths they've seen. They don't have space for the morgue because of the amount of deaths they have. They don't have ambulances. They have jails that are full. They have increased crime, sex trafficking, drug trafficking that's going across the United States. We have a problem as a country. I even spoke to Governor Abbott about it about 3 weeks ago. Went to the mansion the beginning of December and spoke to Governor Abbott about it. Obviously, everybody saw in the news just this week that he officially started building the border wall. But it's a problem. I went to the Del Rio sector where the 14,000 Haitians were at. It is open. I literally saw coyotes across the Rio Grande River putting 2 people across that were just picked up by the Texas National Guard. It is a problem. I have gone down there. We have a problem. It is a national problem. I am getting interest across the United States in my race, across the United States, because this border problem is a national problem. We all saw what happened in New York just 2 weeks ago. They voted where 800,000 illegal immigrants or aliens can vote in the local election now. The Biden administration is shipping them across the United States. So the 1.7 that we have caught processed, we are shipping them across the United States. It is not just a South Texas problem.
No, they're being spread out pretty much everywhere. And you may or may not know this already, or maybe our viewers may or may not know, but those going to Florida, Governor DeSantis is actually revoking their occupancy licenses for the facilities that the U.S. government takes the illegals to. And he is, I don't know if he's doing it now, but he said, I'll bus them right up to Martha's Vineyard. Immediately. I mean, he takes no prisoners in his state. And that's a good example of the cooperative that Texas and Florida have going on together, because he helps us out with National Guard as well. the states have to take care of themselves at this point because the federal government is doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So that's why this race is so historic and so important.
Well, it is, and I keep saying as I've been running, I learned some stuff very fast. I'm not an optimist, I'm not a pessimist, I'm very much a realist, right? So as I started campaigning, talking to hundreds of people, and really listening to the issues, I came very fast that this race is not about Republican versus Democrat. This is really not about Kyle Sinclair versus Joaquin Castro. This really is about freedom versus people who believe in socialism. Right? So if you believe in freedom and being free and a good economy and low crime and enjoy your schools, enjoy your kids and going to church and God and country, that's the voter base that is supporting me. And that is not just a Democrat or Republican. That is Republican, Democrats, and independents, right? People who view freedom and want this country to be free as it was built upon. And then you have the people that are very much open for big government. Right? They want open borders. They want government to take care of everything. The problem is we're seeing, as we've had now 12 months of it under Biden administration, everything they touch with that ideology is that it breaks. The economy is broken. Inflation is up. Immigration is up. Crime is up in every market. You have logistic problems with, tankers that can't get in and shipping containers that can't get in the United States. We have issues with healthcare. We have issues, right, across the board. Everything you touch with that type of ideology, it breaks, it does not work, and you cannot fix it. Venezuela is broken. It's a destroyed country, right? Cuba does not work. You can go down the list, it does not work. So people like Bernie Sanders, the squad, follow through by Pelosi and Biden and push through even people like Castro. It does not work, it will not work. And you're going to get to the point very fast in this country, which is where we're heading, that you're going to have that split. People who want freedom to be protected under the Constitution with your individual rights, or those who want big government and government to take care of everything. For me, I believe absolutely Ronald Reagan said, the 9 scariest words you can ever hear an individual say is, I'm from the federal government, I'm here to help.
That's very scary.
Right?
Because if it's any consolation to those that are conservative, when President Trump was in office, every time I woke up, it seemed like there was some big thing going on. I wake up one day, he has a peace deal. I wake up another day, he has 2 peace deals. I wake up another day, he has 3. But nobody talks about the accomplishments. And I see him as a man that has wielded the power of the presidency very swiftly and very efficiently. And we need that in a congressional district such as 20, because it's been blue for so long. It's time for some change to the other side, because clearly the left is not working on this at all, and they're very inactive. We need change in this congressional district.
Well, I think that's what you get with me, honestly, and that's the benefit of having a non-career politician or a political outsider. Is I'm a business mind. I'm a CEO of a hospital, right? I come with a business mind, and my job is to get things done. My job is to fix problems, right? To make it flow, to make it better, to the experience of coming into my hospital to make it better. And I think that's what you get with me is I fix problems. I want to fix problems. I actually seek problems out so that I can fix them. So it's a little bit different from a career politician who doesn't respond to his constituents, to the complete opposite, turns on his constituents. In me, you have a servant leader who goes into the community, which is what I'm doing, South Side, West Side, Northwest Side, all the parts of District 20. What are your problems? What are your issues? How can I help you? What can I fix? I seek the problems out to fix, to make it better, where he does the complete opposite. Right? So there's a difference between the 2 candidates, between my opponent and myself as alone.
He's extremely passive and just wants to ride the wave for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And it's really sad to see. I went from District 35 into District 20. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel distressed I had to move to the district. But
well, I'm glad you could vote for me now.
But I'm voting for you, of course. Yes, I live in the district, just so you know, folks, and I am voting for Kyle. He is our conservative candidate, no doubt in my mind. And I'm very grateful that I have an opportunity of all the things I didn't like about District 20 to vote Castro out and get some real change. And I see you with a lot of substance and a lot of, willingness to do the right thing in the halls of Congress. What's the single most important thing to you once you assume the office of US 20?
Yeah, I think it's getting back to the people. And I think, unfortunately, whether it's because he's a career politician, he's lost interest in 20. He spends most of his time in D.C. and most of his time, some of his time in California. We know that. I think that's what it is, the people. I will never forget the people. I didn't go to Harvard like he did. I put myself through college. I served in the military. I'm for the people. My family, my 8 kids are in the community. I'm actively involved in the community. And I look forward to that day of coming back as a representative and attending the meetings, attending the events, of helping the community, of really getting involved and knowing intimately the details, of working with the local elected officials, both in the state level as well as the city level, to make this community better. It's a huge interest to me. I want this community safer. I want everybody to enjoy life, right? We just had the most expensive Thanksgiving in the history of our country.
Yes, we did. It's very
that should have never happened, right? You could even talk about, we haven't spent a lot of time about the military, but the debacle of Afghanistan.
That
right?
is very close to my heart. It's really
And mine too, right? I'm a veteran. I have a 4-star general advising my campaign. I just put out a 2-star general that is endorsed my campaign. I have a sergeant major that's endorsed my campaign. I have the military support. I have that on my side, and by far that set a very bad precedent for this country, for our allies, for what's going on with Russia, what's going on in Taiwan, what's going on with China. There's some international things that the debacle in Afghanistan did, let alone the $84 billion of equipment that we left there for a terrorist group that does not like us. And then in addition, we have open borders. So there's some very scary stuff that the Biden administration, supported by Castro, that are major issues. But the number one thing is to get this economy right, is to get jobs, is to keep crime down, is to help better this community and make it safer so that we all can enjoy life.
I look forward to seeing your speeches in the rotunda very shortly here.
Very good, thank you.
But first things first, we gotta we gotta get the voters online and get them to see the true message of what we are seeking in US 20, because so much is at stake here, and this is the perfect time to go after this seat because they think they're untouchable. Joaquin thinks he's untouchable. I wanted to ask your opinions on legalization of marijuana. What multiple states supported, actually more than half of the states in the United States have some form of medicinal use. And some have recreational use and everything in between. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, coming from the medical background, I think I'll start off that we have a major issue with our pharmaceutical problem. I think we get people stuck and hooked on very scary drugs that have major impacts across the nation. We see it in younger population, we see it in older population. But I do think there are medicinal uses that have medical benefits, extreme medical benefits in helping out certain diagnoses and diseases. So, I think there's a point, and I view it very much like, and I was talking to you earlier, but I very much view it as the prohibition with alcohol, right? At some point, you've got to legalize it. When the country and the people want it, you've got to legalize it. And it drops crime down, right? You tax it. It's no longer jail time to sell it legally, right? And we saw that during the prohibition, during the alcohol stages of the country as well. The countries are showing proof. The countries, or the states that have that, there's monetary value to it. There's obviously beneficial from a medical standpoint for it. So do I know the answer? I don't have the complete answer. I don't think anybody does, but I think we got to get to a point as a country that we can discuss that openly and find the right solution. I'm more on the side, again, as it did the prohibition, for the legalization of alcohol is kind of where I'm heading, because I think there are extreme benefits on the medical side of it.
The reason I had asked that question in particular is because I've noticed that THC derivatives, Delta 8 are beginning to be more legalized in multiple states here in the United States. But my personal opinion, I rarely try to interject personal opinions on stuff, but as a veteran, as a fellow veteran, as your fellow Army vet, and as my dad, who was a Marines Vietnam, that might have actually saved his life. He unfortunately he drank himself to death. He suffered from shell shock. Every day he relived the war as if he was on the front, and that's how he died, unfortunately.
And that's what I'm saying. There's some extreme benefits. Now, outside of that, Parkinson's and other diseases, right, that have seen great benefits to it, right? So again, I have almost 20 years of experience. I tend to lean more medical, but I think there are benefits to such as examples and stories that you shared about your dad. So absolutely. So, I hope at some point in the country we find the right answer to that.
Excellent. I appreciate your opinion on that because they have a lot of veterans in US 20 as well.
We do.
And that might be on their mind, but what's his opinion on that?
Yeah.
How would he feel about that? And as we engage the voters more and more in this district, we would certainly find out what is on their mind directly from their mouth, because there is no substitute for knocking on doors and engaging the voter face to face. And living in the district, I, of course, will be one of those people that will help you in my own precinct as a precinct chairman, because it's all in your area as well.
Well, thank you.
And so, naturally, I want to see you win, and I want to see you, to make some real change, some real positive change here to US 20. Is there anything else that we hadn't covered that maybe you would like to talk about, maybe directly to the voter?
No, I mean, I would say, there's multiple issues, but the number one thing I would say from the voter standpoint is I'm here to help. And I think that's what you're getting. I think that's what we haven't had for a very long time. And my saying on my cards and my website is it's time for real representation. And I think that's what you get with me. You get somebody who will truly really represent you. I am not for DC. I honestly don't care about the DC positions and stuff like that. I want to spend my time in District 20 and help people out. Like I said in the beginning, I'm a servant leader. The hundreds of employees that I've had under me, they stay and employed because of that. I value their time, I value their input, and respect them immensely. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits you're getting from me.
So you're going to carry that into a voter constituency. You're going to listen to to the people who are going to be electing you, and hopefully making some real change and action. Because it's one thing to say something, it's one thing to do something.
Agree.
And I think Joaquin has talked for a long time and really did nothing.
Yep.
Do you see this as a kind of like a David and Goliath kind of scenario?
Yeah, I absolutely would. Being a political outsider and taking on somebody like Castro, absolutely do see this as a David versus Goliath, and it doesn't scare me. I'm up for the challenge and fighting, whether that's my military background or maybe that's just who I am as a person. I like challenges, and I like stuff. I've taken on organizations that are struggling and love taking on that challenge. The analogy I keep sharing as I'm talking to hundreds of people is, at some point David had to stop praying and take on a rock and sling and fight Goliath. And I think as me as a person, me where I view where this country is going, and when I look at my family, that's where I view we're at as a country, is that we've got to get off from praying and talking into action. And fortunately, I am that Republican candidate and nominee to take the action to the Democratic Party, to say I've had enough. I've had enough of my freedoms being stripped. I've had enough that this economy is bad. I've had enough that we have high crime. I've had enough that we have open borders. I've had enough that there's governmental overreach and mass mandates and passports being pushed. I've had enough of critical race theory. I've had enough. I've had enough. And you need leaders that will fight and that will take on that challenge. And I will do that. I'm not afraid to stand up for what is right. What is right is right. What is wrong is wrong. And that's a very clear line that we need to have. Unfortunately, we're in a period that what is right is wrong and what is wrong is now right.
It's amazing how it flip-flops.
So, and there's religious analogies to that. But I think you're getting that as a candidate for me, that I will stand up for what is right. I will stand up for the common individual who is struggling to pay their bills, who is struggling to find jobs, who's struggling to do that. I talked to hundreds of people that, in regards to jobs, that they're fighting the federal government. Our companies, our community, and our businesses in San Antonio should not have to fight the federal government to find employees. The federal government is incentivizing people to not work.
Therefore, there are help wanted signs, and I've been around the country to multiple states in the past 2.5 months. Finally came back to here, San Antonio, to do my work here to help my local candidates. But from Virginia to Florida to Louisiana, all I see across the country and every highway I've driven, hundreds of miles in between, have help wanted signs all over the place. The whole country does not have incentive to work.
Yep.
And it's about time we get our people back to work and don't dangle a stimulus check like, oh, we're going to do it or not, we're going to do it or not. Yeah.
Well, and it's even the infrastructure deal, the $1.75 trillion that Castro did support and vote for. We know only 10% of that's going to go truly to infrastructure. That's a problem to me. I'm about, again, business minded, about accountability of where balanced budget. We need to know where that money's going to, right? We spend billions and billions of dollars on foreign aid and international aid, but yet we have veterans sleeping on the streets.
That is unacceptable.
We have homeless problems, right? We have crime problems, right? There's a lot of stuff where we fight terrorism, but yet we have massive amount of crime and that defunding of the police in our communities. It doesn't work that way. It's very logical. It's very easy-minded to think of that. So that I think that's a big part of what's going on. The Build Back Better plan that just has not passed, and which is $4 trillion, got down to $2 trillion. I mean, the national debt. We're in inflation. We're going to see hyperinflation. Those two going to go together. You can't say I want free. Somebody's paying for it.
100%. And
that's the taxpayers. That's you. That's why you're seeing milk price go up, right? The gasoline and oil, right? We cancel a pipeline. We then stop drilling, federal drilling on our land for natural gas and oil. You then release restrictions from Russia to start producing their own oil. You then beg OPEC to produce more oil. You then release from our Federal Reserve, and the prices are still astronomical.
We went 100% in reverse.
We did. We used to be energy independent. The first time in 60 years in this country, we were energy independent. We did not depend on foreign oil or gas or anything to heat and house. You know, they have more deaths right now in Europe from freezing to death because they cannot heat their homes.
I did not know that statistic.
And that is what's going on, is you have so much interest in green, renewable energy, and ERCOT in Texas did the same thing. It's not sustainable. I want a sustainable life that we built this country on, and natural gas and oil is still that. And until the day that natural resources such as wind and solar and all the other energy, renewable energies are sustainable to build this economy and country, I will not support it. I will continue to stand with that. Again, I have solar in my house, but when it froze, it did me no good.
They did zero for you.
Zero.
Good. And that's why a lot of people bought those generators at that big market for those right now. But I think if our government would have been a little more responsible with the monies that had been allocated for that, and thinking that it would never happen, it would never freeze, it would never snow to this extent, and then it did, and that people died in districts here in San Antonio, and I'm sure in other areas of Texas. It snowed in the entire state all the way down to the coast. Totally unprepared, but we had the money, but our government did nothing.
Yep.
And so that's despicable. And I hope that once you're sworn in as our U.S. Congressional District 20 representative, that you will attack these problems head on with your colleagues on both sides of the aisle.
And I will, and I think that's the benefit of me. I'll tell you, I'll share an example. You asked about, who I am. During the snowstorm, we have a 5-chain system of hospitals here in San Antonio. We were running low on food. We're a 24-hour system. We're an acute hospital, and we're low on food and water. And so our food vendor was not delivering because of the snow and ice. So me and another fellow CEO rented a 26-foot U-Haul, drove to Buda, Texas to will call to pick up 10,000 pounds of food, and drove 10 hours to deliver it to our 5 hospitals. It took 10 hours, going 30 miles an hour on a 26-foot U-Haul, delivering food and water for our employees and patients. That's the leader you're getting to meet. We had a problem, we had a solution, and I jumped in head first to be the front to do it.
You rolled up your sleeves and you went out and you did it yourself.
And I don't tout a lot about this stuff because I don't care, but unfortunately, I actually got an award from Mayor for a Outstanding Citizenship Award for that, but I don't care about that stuff, but it's the reality of getting stuff done. When there's a problem, you fix it, right? You don't blame, you don't push, you work together to get fixed problems. So District
20 needs that type of leader, and there's been so much passivity with Joaquin Castro that he exists, and that's it in name only as a congressional representative. But I see the potential of what you could accomplish in the halls of Congress, and it's dirty politics in there. You know very well. If you've been in and out or even heard on the news on either side of the aisle, how they report. It's very dirty politics. They'll stab you. They'll be nice to you, and they'll stab you in the back the moment you turn around. I hope that I know that we're going to have somebody brave enough to take on all those knives in your back because you got your constituency backing you up to vote you in, because we're tired. And, we're done with the BS. We want some positive change. We want to see real representation in this district, and no better time on earth than right now, right here. in San Antonio. I know it's a bigger district than just San Antonio, but it's a very important district and historically held for many, many years, all the way back to Henry V. Gonzalez.
It is.
So
it is.
if the left has gone so far to where they are disengaged with the voter in their constituency, then I say it's time to pass the reins over to the Republican Party to show them by example what we can do, because we have done it on a national level.
I agree, and I was sharing with you earlier that I have real concerns right now with Congressman Castro, particularly on the border and illegal immigration and illegal immigrants that are coming across, where his fight is more for that, right? When you turn on your constituents, or either or, turn on your own constituents, or you're for a group of population that is not even citizens, I have a real concern for that. American citizens, and particularly the constituent of District 20, are not second-class citizens in our own country.
Right.
A sitting United States congressman should have the number one interest, should be the people of his district and the people of this country first. That is the first thing. So when you turn on your own people, or you try to represent a group of people that you do not have power or position over, that's a problem to me. And you've lost interest with what's going on in this country. You've lost interest in what's going on in this state. You've lost interest in what's going on in District 20. And for that very reason, if you do not want it, step aside, and I will represent District 20.
I think that's well, you're definitely the right answer for what we need in San Antonio and in U.S. Congressional District 20. Once again, I want to thank you for your time.
Absolutely, thank you.
And once again, this is Randolph CS with the Uncensored Voice. May God bless America and the great state of Texas.
God bless you. Merry Christmas.